And I see you laughing, I see some other people out there too, probably breathing a sigh of relief now that LeBlanc is off the table.
Yeah, look, regardless of how OP or not you thought it was, it won the game for the side of Weibo. The double backdoor, getting the 2 Nexus turrets, and then coming back and finishing the job. And just, you know, very, very smart play on that, so we will not be seeing it this time around. I do like this ban from Weibo to try and just kind of give ZDZ a much more kind of favorable lane. I wouldn't even mind to see them ban the Udyr as well, regardless if they've seen Breeze play it or not. Just, again, give them more priority in the top side, because I think ZDZ had a pretty decent time of it in that game.
Well, he had a decent time of it in the team fights. In the individual lane, I think he lost gracefully. And that's the most important thing he could have done. Because if he was dying in side lanes, then suddenly Weibo couldn't have ground out that slower win condition which they played towards. Got to imagine we're not, well, I mean, I was about to say we're going to imagine we're not going to, it's been a long day, folks. We're not going to see a Zyra again, because of course we've got the Lucian Army and Zyra Khan locked in. We do have mid laners left to lock in and a top lane matchup. Rumble is a pretty hard matchup into that Cassandra. I can definitely see them considering that, especially with the Maokai locked in as well. There's plenty of hobbits. I expect it to be the Rumble. It's the best lock-in with that composition.
The Rumble, the Nymeara was something he didn't hover until the very end, and that's what he's going to lock in there. So they're looking for a little bit more guaranteed engage, a bit more split push priority as well. We'll see what Weibo respond to with in the jungle and, of course, in the mid lane.
So what you've given up with not locking in the Rumble is more threat onto the Lucian Army alongside the Maokai with the combined ultimates and the Rakan going into it. Not is better in the side lane, as you were saying, versus ZDZ's Cassandra though, and that's something which they really utilized quite well last game actually. Breeze was a threat on the side lane, so if you have Nar getting off to a strong early start, that's something that they can do so again with. He hasn't escaped a difficult matchup just by banning out that Jax. XiaoHao onto something a bit more aggressive. He was on Maokai duty last game and he did a fine job of it, but he is such a pleasure to watch on aggressive champions like the Shinzao. And it might be comboed up with something like the Orianna, and indeed it is. It's not a very high win rate champion at the LPL, but it should definitely be able to help control some extra zone to maybe keep that Gnar and Maokai out of a team fight as they look to engage.
See what they can do with it, but locked and loaded for Weibo. Definitely a little bit more traditional AD carry support combination for them coming into this particular game, but we'll see if they can make it work. And again, Tangyuan, I don't think he played badly on the Azir. I just don't think he played to the same level as some of the Azirs in our league. Cough, scout, cough, you know? So it's always that weird one when you have so many incredible players of a champion that when other players play it, not necessarily badly, but not as well, it almost makes it look like it was bad, you know? It's a weird comparison.
And we have some players who are real specialists on the champion in this league too. I mean, Rookie's Azir is fantastic, Angel's Azir is fantastic. And Tangyuan, don't get me wrong, is a newer mid laner. He's one of the better ones to come through. Heck, Xiaohu is also an Azir of great playmaking potential too on the other side of the Rift. He might have to put up some extra damage numbers for this one though. Late game Azir last game couldn't quite do it. He wasn't allowed to team fight in the way that he wanted to. This one feels a little bit more like a team fighting composition. Less of the smoke and mirrors, more about dusting off the knuckles and going in for another round.
One more round, potentially 2 more. We'll see if RNG can get themselves a bit of a haymaker back after getting pushed down in what was an absolute slugfest in that first game. 50+ minutes, and it really did deliver. Went all the way with the Dragons, went all the way with different Barons. Just did not stop end to end. It had everything. A backdoor, you know, Baron steals, Elder Drake steals, everything. But now we look to see how this game can really kind of set itself up. For Weibo, it's about solidifying a little bit of a better early game. RNG had your number in the first 20 minutes of that game. You need to be getting yourself much more settled, much more earlier. And on the opposite side of this is RNG. Just calm it down. Do what you did in the last game, but just don't be so reckless with throwing away your jungler's life and giving up those big objectives.
And also, gotta say, gotta expect something more from LWX. Ming, I think, had a pretty okay game, but LWX has had a couple of shockers, and this one wasn't a very easy one to play out on the Varus. He was caught out a lot of times with CC flying through the back of the team fight. Now onto the Zyra, a champion which he has done an awful lot of work with on the past. He needs to stand up, be counted for in this DPS checks, and make sure RNG can bring this to an even series.
Well, we'll jump straight into the Rift for game number 2 of this best of 3. It's our 7th game of the day. We'll see if we'll go to magic number 8. We were just talking the break, myself and yourself, how yeah, you got the 9-game series, and maybe you'll get the 7-game series, or potentially the 8. We're not quite sure.
And I'm going to just throw it out there, the games have also just been really quite intense. That last game, it felt like it was slow for a while. We talked about a great number of things, and the Petunias, they were a favorite of my machine. I enjoy the Petunias. I don't necessarily, well rather, I enjoy them. My vocal cords, after a 9-game absolute slugfest just a couple of days ago, into some incredibly high-intensity games today, they are liking it less and less. I have like 3 assorted different kind of drinks out in front of me to try and keep them working just to cross over the finish line as we try and join our team also trying to cross the finish line.
Well, luckily for you, you have a bit of a break now. We have one more broadcast before the Lunar New Year break. We are live on Wednesday for the last game before the break. I finally get to sleep. You can put me back to my slumber. Wheel me back out when you need me again. Is that how it works? Is that all I mean to you, Oisin? I'm just glad you're aware. That's all. I'm just glad you understand this relationship we've built together. But yeah, I mean, look, you know, two-week breaks, a little longer than most of the people. I think LCK is only going to get themselves 1 week. Crisp is taking a serious amount of damage, but a heal from himself keeps him fine.
We mentioned this right in the draft phase as well. Zyrakan very much can have some laning pressure versus the Lucian Nami W start. For those of you that don't know, or it just slipped the mind, Rakan gets the extra bonus move speed and attack speed when Xayah activates W as well. If you start hitting enemy champions, you get the extra damage and move speed from that. It means that your level 1 rundown potential, when your support's AD and their auto attacks actually means quite a lot too, means that Zyrakan can do a lot of damage.
Absolutely, the Zyrakan, especially at level 1 when you got that ignite, it's just very scary thing. But we have a little bit of an LPL update so far this split. Maokai versus the Xin Zhao. Maokai owns the Xin Zhao right now. So if you're an RNG fan, you're feeling a little bit better about the current situation of things. As Ming and LWX really did want to get that one actual ward, or that one ward, but I feel like that was such a weird thing. And there's the Orianna win rate, 0-7 up against the Azir. That's a pretty hefty, you know, 2 good things for RNG.
You know that one bit in Empire Strikes Back where C-3PO goes to Han Solo, it's like, you know the odds of surviving an asteroid field is like 1,000,000 to 1. Never tell me the odds. Weibo would really like to finish this out just here. Numbers are great up until you find the reason why the numbers are that way. If they can stop this front-to-back happening in the way that RNG want to, with the Maokai ult kind of screens off the team while they can catch out the front line, that means that you get a lot more value from it. Now suddenly level 3 to level 1 in this bot side, really well played for XiaoHao coming over towards this bot side and using the Xin Zhao's early pressure to make sure that this Zyrakan can't stay under turret. I don't even think wave coming up here can save them. This wave is way too big under turret. They're still going to be fighting multi-levels.
This is huge. They're level 1 Nymeara. They aren't even, like, they can't even walk up to this. They're literally 2 levels down on everyone. What Wei is doing here, I don't know, but it's not going to change anything. This is horrific for RNG's bot lane. This actually genuinely could really put them, like, honestly, like, almost impersonally not able to come back. But here we go. Wei gonna look for something. Gets hit by the double, and they get the TP away. They will finally get Ming and LWX towards the minion wave, but, like, they could get dove again. They will hit level 2. But, I mean, this is awful. They're not going to get level 2. They're not going to get it. They're going to lose both their flashes. And Crisp and Light are just smashing this bot lane. It's going to be some supportal combat to end it all, but they're still level 1.
But there was the scumbag cannon minion under the tower. If one more minion had died, they would have hit level 2. But because it's a cannon, they can't kill it quickly enough, and they are stuck in their very first level of the game. MVP of that tower dive the second time around is the big old minion in the cannon.
Insane. Let's have a look at the replay here, because I mean, this is ZDZ. Really good moment here. And yeah, he just gets them out. Look, he just stops the TP.
Just taps the W, gets the shunt in. Are we going to see the dive after this? We are. The thing is, that teleport wouldn't have arrived in time anyway. But what? We're not even going to see what... That's sad. If you look at what happens under that turret there, they try and hit level 2. But because the entire previous wave had died and it's on the first cannon wave of the game, the cannon dies too slowly to tower. And that means suddenly you have... This is like the gold standard of laning items for Lucian early on. The support item plus the Kerchi shard for the energized auto attack tap. It's really, really annoying to play around. LWX and Ming, we asked for more from LWX. This is not going to be an easy game from him again.
No, and look, someone kind of goes under the radar. I think a bot lane that goes under the radar is Light and Crisp, and they had a good year last year, and again, just kind of no one really talked about them. There's Xiaohu, of course, with his massive history and his success on many different RNG rosters. There was the Shy, which no one could stop talking about. It does feel like this bot lane goes unnoticed or even unaccredited. I know, right? But it goes a little uncredited, but that whole setup is literally them just saying, we know how to play this, and they are one of our premier bot lanes. They always have been.
They have been. And so, I mean, the way that I characterize this team, for those of you that didn't watch as many regular season games from Weibo, most of the time they would do a bit of happy gaming, and they'd flip a little bit around the top side, and then when push came to shove, Light would put on the work boots and drag this team across the finish line. He is the most consistent member of this team, and they're a bot lane in the 2v2, Light and Crisp, that could stand up to our very best in the league. They could stand up to Ruler and Missing, to Gala and Hung last year as well. They did some great things. Even Elk and On, they ended up doing great work against at points too. And now, coming into this year, they are being the core of a great roster. Xiaohu having to flash out from an ultimate, shoving him back in towards Wait, now trading back.
Yeah, that's a shockwave to get the HP down from Tangyuan, who does click over to level 6. Doesn't mean that XiaoHao had stopped his dragon taking ability, but they are still going for more in this bot side. 3 plates almost taken, and it's 7 minutes into the game. You're still 40 CS down nearly on this bot side. LWX, like, I mean, what's he supposed to do? You're a Xayah. You don't really have anything to kind of deal with this level of pressure from a Nami Lucian.
This is not the happiest game for our dear lovers in the bot lane. They are sat down 40 CS, and of course there's the support item, which is going to be racking up even more gold. They're looking for another recall under turret, which means that, luckily with that Q missing, it's going to be the full... Oh no, LWX, you have to join him in the last 2 seconds of the recall. It can't be all the way up to it. So LWX is now alone under turret. Luckily, I think is going to survive the dive threat. But that's very unfortunate. There was actually a chance of a dive there. XiaoHao was on the same side of the map. I was having a bead of sweat appear on the forehead for poor LWX at that point.
Oh, I think we all were there at that point, but yeah, it definitely had a moment of a scared moment for the LWX RNG bot laner. Does mean, though, he's able to stay in the spot side, get a little bit of solo XP, maybe try and build back some of this deficit that he was unfortunately losing. But I love what Weibo's doing right now. I love the fact that we're seeing XiaoHao recognizing the full extent of how ahead this bot lane is, and just pushing the number on it, stealing away a blue, making sure that Wei can't get in and infect this bot lane because of how far pushed up it is. And even we see ZDZ coming up against Breed saying, look, we know Wei's bot side, so I'm happy to kind of soak up the pressure here as well. It's just really, really smart play coming out from Weibo, knowing just how far ahead they are currently in the state of the game.
And now they're coming back out onto the map with even more components. Xiaohu, yes, the Orianna in the LPL has struggled into the Azir. I feel like the big thing which has changed this matchup is the fleet footwork on the Azir, because at last Worlds it felt like Orianna could really just deck Azir and lane. With the extra sustain and the ability for Azir to hit the enemy champion quite easily, means that he's kind of easier to play in lane with more HP. But still, Xiaohu is doing enough to make sure that Tangyuan isn't getting huge value from his mid lane priority just yet. See what happens with XiaoHao versus Wei in this matchup, which is also winless in the LPL in this specific matchup. He's heading towards bot side again. It is not about the Maokai right now. It's about
It is not about him. Not at all. We're going to have a shockwave. Actually stop a little bit of that aggressive move. He will get caught up by the cats right at the end. The flash from Tangyuan does not move away from the Crescent Guard, and that's going to be a trade of mid laners, though this time around it's the jungler of RNG that picks up that second kill. So big trade there for Weibo as they do get themselves a 1-for-1.
Yeah, and I think this one's really valuable because the gold does go over to that Orianna. You can see that it's going towards the tier, which is the Seraphs coming out, which means that the earlier you get these items, like the Merc Treads as well, the harder it is for RNG to play around your lane, and this Azir being able to play make on top of that Orianna. XiaoHao has picked up a lot of assists. He's been the ultimate wingman in this game so far. Gosh, this guy has been such a player to watch. We talked about it a little bit earlier in the series, but XiaoHao, coming over from Anyone's Legend, has done so much work in the last year in a team which was struggling. And now on a team which is built up with a lot of big names, he has a real moment to shine like this.
There's a 2-level difference in the bot lane. That is absurd. Like, and they've been in this bot lane for a while. Like, it's not as if this is the big thing. Yes, they got the dive down, and it's only actually the 1 kill onto the Xia. That's the difference in terms of that physical amount of gold. But it's the fact that every exchange, every single time, they're going for more stuff, and they're just constantly getting these health bars down. They're juggling the turret aggro so well. It's just becoming unsustainable here for RNG. I almost think they want this tower to go down so they can just leave.
There's something to that, but the problem is with that is that then you have to deal with Lucian Nami on a mid wave, which is arguably their strongest point in the game. So while RNG know that this bot lane is locked in there, there's a potential they could fight around these grubs, knowing that the Lucian Nami with all of their gold advantage are not able to respond towards this, and they are able to get themselves their 4th grub and deny Weibo their 3rd as well. Xiaohu, they know he's in that brush. Tangyuan could potentially look for another shuffle again. Not going to look so right now.
Stormrazor now finished up for Light, so he's going to be coming back into that lane with basically full kill pressure onto LWX in any kind of capacity. And an Imperial mandate to boot as well for Chris. Great start here for the side of Weibo as they look to just really rectify the early game mistakes they had in game number 1. And honestly, so far this split, you know, this is the 4th series for Weibo, but it has been the call for them. They've looked terrible in game number 1, a bit better, if not, you know, completely different in game number 2, and they've been happy to go with that kind of a style. Yeah,
for something. We sometimes get some teams where in a particular game in the series, something happens. We used to have OMG, where game 1 at OMG was absolutely awful. Anyone's Legend, actually, mentioning for XiaoHao, was always great for that team. We had a lot of teams that were best of 3 merchants. They needed 1 game to get it out of the system. So we'll see if that's now out of the system. For Weibo's early game, it very much has seemed so far. RNG had the leg up on them in game 1. RNG really struggling at this point, though. For this timestamp, this gold lead is really nasty. And since it's nucleated onto the Lucian, that's even more problematic. The XiaoHao's also using their gold advantage for well, Culling comes out, and that's half the HP down. With the XiaoHao on the same side of the map, they're once again pinned under turret.
Yep, more pots, more biscuits, more everything being used here by the RNG bot lane as they look to just hold, survive, don't get caught out again, because I feel like this bot lane is just one more dive. Yeah, one more dive away from basically collapsing in front of them.
Oh gosh, this is the trenches right now. They're just trying to make it through one more barrage. Ming will be spotted out by XiaoHao. He's going to get some burst onto him. He's used a lot of his mobility now. Oh gosh, they're down a lot of cooldowns. So they have to leave the turret. If they had the Rakan cooldowns, I think that maybe they would get locked up under turret. It's a little bit dangerous, but XiaoHao baits out, forces out a fair amount from Ming, and the turret falls. First turret with all plates included go over to Light, and of course the Crisp as well. He's going to get himself back towards base, probably get himself well on his way to a 2nd item by this point, only 14 minutes into the game. And this is going to be a very difficult point for RNG now, because you're now contending with the Lucian Nami, which have a free run at mid lane. Typically when bot lane turret falls, anywhere between 13 to 15 minutes odd. You want to start switching your bot lanes through into the mid lane. And now you have this much gold on a Lucian, which is going to be setting up shop in the mid lane, which means RNG are going to find it so hard to play around the map. Mid lane is where most plays are leveraged from. How do you fight around that now?
I mean, how do you fight at all, to be perfectly honest, with a Zeal being picked up here for...
That's true. That's a good point.
I mean, like, regardless of the position of the map and position of the minion waves, I just don't know how... I think for RNG, you just have to let LWX have a lane where he can farm in. You can't really let him just sit around a mid lane and potentially get caught out. You have to let him get back into the game for some way or shape or form to kind of put it. But they are looking to try and maybe contest this Dragon. Crisp is away from Light for the moment, and RNG, they're not willing to let this Dragon stack just yet.
Right, so they do have Maokai ult. This is actually not a bad 5v5 to be taking right now, because Sante's not here. XiaoHao might have to force ult. I don't think he is. They're just going to look for the Dragon secure. There's no counter-engage coming through from the side of Weibo. They're teleporting away towards top lane now, but that means the teleport, the fight might come through.
The fight might come through. Not quite able to get it. Shockwave a little bit too late there. I feel like they could have known it was going down. But look, neither here nor there. They get the teleport out of the Gnar. Maybe look for a dive underneath this turret. Because remember, there's quite a few things no longer available now for the side of RNG. You don't have the TP from the Gnar to come into this. You don't have the Maokai ultimate. You do have a lot of ways of stopping, RNG from getting away.
Yeah, that Markile is a really big one, right? Because one of the things we mentioned in the draft very early on is that, okay, so the Lucian Nami's been given over. Makai is good into Lucian Nami. When they go aggressive, Makai pops his ult, fizzles out the play, and stops them from playing around the play pattern that they really want to. With that on cooldown, means that Light and Chris can potentially look for plays like this, which is really, really dangerous. Bloodsong builds up, so you have the Sheen and the exposed weakness for the extra damage coming through from Light's Lucian. RNG, they are still in the trenches, folks. They are not out of this yet.
Not out of it yet, but I do believe after maybe the next wave or so, you should, quote-unquote, be getting the first item available for the side of LWX. And now Breed wants to take things into his own hands. He's looking for a little bit of a move here on the ZDZ, who's just trying to run away with the Ghost. Should be able to get away from the rest of the team. Yeah, he's buying time. But Xiaohu now, unfortunately, just a little bit too late. There's the tidal wave looking to catch out many, many people. They're going to get a double bubble trouble into the combo. Oh. Crisp with absolute clarity there, knowing exactly where to place the bubble. And that was a huge, huge win there for Weibo on the top side.
It is great to see Weibo well connected with their top laner. It's something that they struggled with on and off last year, but ZDZ knows well in advance that he's going to have teammates on the way. We're going to look through this replay to see how this happens. Look at the minimap immediately. You have people running up the river as soon as this fight comes through in earnest, and as soon as the fight comes through like a little bit later after this, ZDZ also has enough move speed to just buy so much time. There's an argument to say that hitting that Q3 didn't help him out because it closed the distance. XiaoHao holds on the audacious charge, and then what he does is he steps back, not allowing Na to be able to get the knockback, the double hop onto him, which then allows him to get the huge CC afterwards. Jungle support, you call that Chris play already, massively on point. Weibo get a huge fight for themselves.
And again, one positive for RNG leads to more positives for Weibo. One step forward, two steps back for them. And it just feels like they're really relying on Breathe here. You would have loved if he got that kill as well, just to kind of accelerate this Nara into the side lane, but just not to be. This, oh, Jesus, it's getting very dicey now. As we can see XiaoHao looking for a little bit more. Gonna drop down the Rift Herald right immediately. Tangyuan does end up getting the ultimate out of himself there, so should be pretty safe after the fact, but not longer having that. They could go for another tower push, and I feel like XiaoHao is gonna do just that. Yeah. Gets it the wrong way.
What? No.
Yeah,
oh, XiaoHao,
here's
buddy.
how it is.
Driver's license revoked.
You gotta make sure your champion is facing the right way. Regardless of Shelby, your champion needs to be facing the correct direction and when you enter it. If you're not, that's when it will swap positions.
Yeah, and it goes a little bit off the rails. Worth noting, they use the Herald on the top turret and not on the mid lane one. I think that's because actually Light and Crisp are happy taking this on its own, and they're just going to keep chunking out LWX and Crisp, and Ming rather, time and time again. You have the rapid fire cannon coming out from Light. Because they're just angling for an attack, it means that Wei just throws the ultimate out to try and stop things, but that's another important tool down.
Another important tool just before this dragon spawns, another Chem Soul, might I add, coming in here. And Wei, oh my god, piercing light and a double tap, and he's already starting to feel very, very, oh, he's not loving it. He's not loving it.
Close.
He's just not going to be able to get away from it. But yeah, Weibo, I mean, they're in total control right now. The gold lead might not be massive, but it feels like it's just them versus the world, or RNG versus the world in terms of trying to surmount this.
They are Light once again using the range increase of the fire cannon. It is so much damage. And this is why they didn't use the Herald mid lane. They're more than happy to allow RNG the thought that they're safe under this mid lane turret. They're not. They're not safe here. With these items on Lucian, a full item, and let's be honest, an item and a half because of the support item too, but giving so much value to Lucian in particular. LWX can't afford to be all out of position. XiaoHao still has ult. This is not even a good fight.
No, it's not, because you don't have any damage. Like, yes, you get the Gnar ults, he's got a Triforce, but you're not getting Tangyuan in there, and straight up, LWX just cannot walk up to that. So, trade of turret for turret right now. ZDZ off to the side, but they're still going in this mid lane. Weibo, they don't care about the dragon right now because they know that it's a 4v3, and Breathe, he's getting so much damage. LWX has to use the heal and the feathers just to make sure he doesn't die.
And this is why we banned the Lucian in the LPL. So many times we've seen teams go for the Gambit and say, look, we can fight this. And yeah, if you're ruler and missing, maybe that works out. LWX and Ming, this has not been good for them. But with the Baron start in Fog of War, Weibo, they've maybe lost themselves a bit of control over this. Xiaohu's on it though. Another teleport coming in from ZDZ. That's going to be the Baron stopped. Is there going to be a fight afterwards?
Oh, might be on way. Don't think they know exactly where everybody is. Breathe now. They've kind of found a couple of different answers. They're going to get the all out and immediately given over. The Baron has been stopped, down. But it's going to be started again because 21 minutes on the clock, and you can see that Weibo just don't care about the Dragon. They've accepted that the Chem Soul's just not really worth it, but RNG, they have to fight.
Oh, the jungler's down after RNG started that play. Weibo, they have full control over this. They need to be careful. This Baron will chunk them out, but that's a good shockwave.
It's huge, gets a lot of damage down onto Ming. He's going to be so squishy going into this fight. ZDZ just keeping everybody away. The Baron down to 3,000 HP. They just need to get it down to about 1,500. Good tidal wave's going to separate everybody away as they look to try and jump onto Ming. Baron secured. ZDZ taken down. XiaoHao goes in onto LWX, but nobody else was following up to him. Breathe. Going to go into Mega, get a little bit of a boost of a health bar, but it's an early Baron over to Weibo. They should be able to get out of this as well. There's no real chase available. Breathe has flash. He's looking for it, but they all predicted it. Now these health bars are going to go low. Now the Lucian can really start to tear in. Pew pew. It's time to go back to the gray screen. Tangyuan is being chased down like the ghoul he is, and that is going to be an easy little ace coming in here, you imagine, for Weibo. XiaoHao going to keep chasing down Wei. Wei might want to use the ultimate to stay alive, but out of all of it, it's still Weibo's game.
It's absolutely their game, and it came off of what was meant to be RNG's Baron. That's what they would have hoped, but Weibo, they respond. And rather than just chasing off RNG straight after it, they wait around to get the perfect fight, to get themselves a game-crushing advantage beyond what they even had again. I really like this tidal wave. It just buys enough space. Yes, EDZ dies for it, but just being able to split the team and put RNG into a bit of awkward terrain gives Weibo the time to finish the Baron and regroup. Then, of course, we always have the souped-up Blast Plant making a huge play for Breed, but the flashes are on point. As soon as you miss that engage, the stats come to bear, Weibo come to play.
And XiaoHao is just feeling himself right now. 2-0 and 6, just dominating in this jungle matchup between himself and Wei, and proving that the Xin Zhao, it's so powerful. Yes, the Maokai has such incredible utility. It has amazing ways of coming back into the game and disengaging, but just having the crescent guard to cover yourself so you can't be bursted down, jumping in, getting the knock-up, interrupting dashes, and oh my god! What is that damage? That is absurd!
Yeah, that's a Lucian who knows he's safe to go in. You can see that RNG, they almost get the timing of the Maokai ult as Lucian is dashing in. That's typically the way that Lucian falls apart versus that champion, but he already gets the damage done. He only needs a single empowered double tap with the first strike on top of it as well. This champion is off the chain.
It is off the chain and off the charts. Here we go. Light gonna flash away. They're gonna throw everything at him, but is the damage enough? That is the question. They're just not quite able to get him. Finally, they get the kill. The bot lane is dead, but can they get anything else? The shockwave is good. Wei goes down. It's a 2-for-2 trade in this exchange. 5v5 turned to 3v3. Never mind, we'll make it a 2v3 in favor of Weibo. And look, RNG, I love that you tried. You had to go for something because this game is falling away from you.
I mean, they did what they were supposed to against the Lucian. The last time was the Maokai ult. You're meant to punish Lucian as soon as he presses the dash button going forwards. The first time, it didn't work out. You saw the damage which he did. Good call to actually try and do it again. That is about as good as it's going to get from here. Watch how quick they are. Immediate flash. Tangyuan's coming in as well. The Nami ult is not quite in time, but the flash key is on point from Light to get him dealing damage yet again. Yes, he does die because Breathe heads over, but he's already taken over the majority of Wei's HP bar, which makes the back end of this fight unplayable because the HP bars are just too low.
XiaoHao's just zoning out 3 people. He killed Tangyuan, he stopped Ming and LWX from rejoining the fight. And look, most people might look at this game and go, oh, LWX wasn't there, he wasn't available to do anything, he didn't do any damage. What's he supposed to do? He literally can't walk up. Like, I really do feel like this was just that initial play in the bot side has put LWX in such a hole that there's nothing for him to do unless it goes for like another 50 minutes, or up to 50 minutes, excuse me.
Yeah. I say, if we got to 75 minutes in this game, I would hate
Jin Air Green Wings in my mind.
Yeah. Do you remember Complexity Curse? There was one of the Fnatic Origin games as well. All of those on the top playlist. This one's going to end, spoiler folks, it's going to end a lot quicker than that one.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, after the early levels, what can you expect LWX to do? We asked him to do more coming into this game. That's not going to be the case. But after the early game, how much realistically can you expect him to do? Even in that last fight, right? Light has a fantastic flash to get away from kind of the clump of RNG that was forming in front of him, and he kind of repositions the fight. If he isn't nearly as fast on that flash, maybe LWX can get the shutdown. Maybe he can get the kill in a cleaner fight. It's not the case, and Weibo, despite the fact that, you know, they have dropped one of those series to LNG, they come into this one, and despite even the hard game one, they are looking like they have recovered themselves a little bit. They're showing what we are excited to see from this team. I mean, Lyric was so excited that in our internal power rankings, which you might see more and more of as we go through the split and hold it over each other as we're right and wrong, he put them as first place with a bit of mojo in tow.
It's great from Weibo, but it is a little disappointing from RNG. We're still kind of temperature checking them. We should be able to get them into playoffs, but we'll see how it goes. Breathe is going to die. They're not even going to use the all-out to take him out. CDZ picks that one up 3-2-2 on the Cassante. But yeah, I mean, this game is going to end in a Weibo win, 2-0 on the day. And I mean, look at that damage.
Oh
like, that was just his culling. That was just the first 2 bits of his culling. Because he's got the Infinity Edge of the last Whisper.
Didn't even get the double tap.
Nope.
He didn't even get himself auto attacks on top of that. This is now going to be a pretty unceremonious end to the game. That's through the Guardian and the shield from Ming. He is not safe at all. Wait until the next auto attacks come up. Light, he's a player which started his career being the aggressive, front-footed player, playing stuff like the Lucian and dashing forward too aggressively. He's toned down that aggression over the years, but he's cultivated it into a real precise cutting tool, which Weibo have used oh so well. He has been such an important member for this Weibo squad, and he is lucky to get away with not a single... If that auto attack lands, he's half health.
I was going to say, I think that was the moment where Ming was like, I know they're in this brush. I know they're sitting here waiting for me to walk forward. So I'm just going to stand here and wait for them to do it. So the red buff gets stolen. RNG moving forward. They don't, now they know. I was going to say they don't know, but there's the shockwave. Breathe is dead. Light picks up his 4th kill. If he hadn't died so far this game, he would be an error screen, but he is 4-1-4. And I mean, they're going to go back for the Baron. Without that massive engage, I don't know what you can do here as RNG, as even ZDZ can keep way away.
This is going to be a very difficult situation for RNG. It's not exactly gotten easier since the early levels of it. Ming's walking over, but honestly, he's just a slight distraction. Baron's going to go down for free. See Tangyuan potentially taking down a dragon to get an objective bounty at least, with LWX heading down there as well. They'll take that, but honestly, it is a very, very small, pitiful consolation prize to the absolute drubbing which Weibo have given them.
Drubbing, what a great word. Never heard that one. What is the actual definition of drubbing?
I don't know. I've just heard it a lot in sports context when people just really smash a team. I will have to Google that. I will find out.
To drub is to beat or to thrash. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I always thought it was kind of like, I don't know why I thought it was something to do with cleaning, like beating a, you know, he used to beat clothes and stuff like that with the big old bat thing.
Yeah, I mean, look,
maybe that was it.
It sounds like clubbing, you know? Like, it sounds like clubbing, as in you would club someone to death. Yeah. So, you know, drubbing someone. But yeah, I was thinking it was a bit more fun. Maybe there'd be some drinks and music involved with that kind of clubbing. But I think the only drinks RNG are putting in right now wants to drown themselves in their sorrow, because this has been... It felt like they could have had that first game. This one has not felt the same. They're throwing out the Markel to try and stave off the inevitable, but it feels so futile. Yep, you got the inhibitor turrets, the last of the inhibitors. And the minions shall pour in. RNG going for one last ditch effort. They flash in. And they get absolutely nothing for it. They are going to look to see if Breathe can get something as well. Because to get a good ultimate, they're throwing everything here onto Light, but he still hasn't gone down. XiaoHao finally picks up the kill on Tangyuan. And after everything, they still haven't killed off Light. The flashes, the ultimates, everything was thrown at him. But he just did not go down. He did not die. They will kill off ZDZ, but these minions are doing the work for them. They'll throw in one final last effort to try and save save this game, to save this series, but Weibo refused to let it happen. Weibo came into this second game and said, we're not repeating game number 1. We're not going for 50 minutes. We'll do it in just over half that. 30 minutes and one, we'll call it a 2-tap onto the Xia. Weibo 2-0 on the day.
Gosh. The light briefly flickered in the wind as the HP bar dropped towards its end, but the candle stays alit amongst the storm at the Nexus. Xiaohu once again fells the team he made famous, the team that he won so many titles with. You can see the smiles on his face, greeting some old friends across the rift, as there are so many connections in this LPL league of ours. They walk away with a 2-0. It feels like it should have been maybe a little longer than that, especially after game 1, which delivered in so much value after what was a very slow and inactive early game. Second game though, oh my gosh, this team burst to life. Again, top teams across the LPL, they're starting to gear up. They